What metal became more valuable than gold almost overnight? Yet most people don't even know it exists. It sounds like a riddle from a science fiction story, doesn't it? But the answer is very real. And it's hiding in plain sight. That metal is palladium. It's a silvery-white element, a member of the platinum group. For decades it was the unsung hero of the periodic table, working behind the scenes. Then market forces aligned in just the right way. Suddenly, this overlooked metal saw its value skyrocket, eclipsing even the legendary gleam of gold, leaving many experts and observers completely astonished. Most people have heard of gold. We see it in jewelry, in treasure chests, in movies, and we think of it as the ultimate symbol of wealth. It's been the standard of value for millennia. Palladium, on the other hand, rarely gets a mention. You probably can't picture a palladium coin or a palladium crown. Yet, at its peak, an ounce of this subtle industrial metal was worth more than an ounce of the king of metals. This dramatic shift wasn't driven by fashion or ancient traditions. It was driven by something far more modern: technology, chemistry, and our collective global effort to breathe cleaner air. This incredible story reveals a fascinating truth about our modern world. The value of a material isn't just about its beauty or its history, it's about its utility. It's about what it can do for us. Every element has an origin story, a moment of discovery. Palladium's story begins in the year 1803. It was a time of great scientific excitement in Europe. A brilliant English chemist and physicist named William Hyde Wollaston was experimenting with crude platinum ore that had arrived from South America. He was a meticulous scientist, dissolving the ore in a powerful mixture of acids. In the process, he isolated not one, but two new metals. The first he named rhodium, the second a beautiful silvery substance needed a name that was just as grand. Wollaston looked to the heavens for inspiration. Just 2 years earlier, in 1801, the astronomer Heinrich Olbers had discovered a massive object orbiting between Mars and Jupiter. It was the second asteroid ever found, and he named it Pallas, after Pallas Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom. So, what makes palladium so special? At first glance, it looks a lot like platinum or silver. It's shiny, it resists corrosion, it doesn't tarnish in the air. It's relatively light for a precious metal. It's ductile, can be drawn into thin wire. It's soft and malleable when heated. It can be shaped into intricate components. These physical traits make it useful, but its real magic is its relationship with hydrogen. It is a master of absorption. Imagine a sponge soaking up water. Palladium does the same with hydrogen gas. It's a hydrogen sponge on a molecular level. A small piece can absorb up to 900 times its volume in hydrogen. It's an almost unbelievable feat of chemistry. The hydrogen atoms don't just coat the surface, they slip inside the metal's crystal lattice, fitting between palladium atoms. The process is reversible. Heat releases the hydrogen. That makes palladium an incredible catalyst. A catalyst speeds up reactions without being consumed. Think of it as a chemical matchmaker. By absorbing hydrogen, palladium brings it close to other molecules and encourages reactions. This enables precise, efficient control of chemical processes in industry. It's not just a neat chemistry trick, it has real-world consequences. It helps clean toxic car exhaust. It purifies hydrogen for advanced fuel cells. It enables synthesis of complex organics for pharmaceuticals. Palladium's hydrogen manipulation is the foundation of its 21st century importance, a superpower in elemental disguise. If you've driven a gasoline-powered car built in the last few decades, you have benefited from palladium even if you didn't know it. The single largest use of palladium by far is in a device called a catalytic converter. This small, unassuming box in your car's exhaust system performs a vital environmental service. As your engine burns fuel, it produces a cocktail of harmful pollutants: unburnt hydrocarbons, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides. The catalytic converter's job is to change these toxins into less harmful substances. Inside is a ceramic honeycomb structure coated with a thin layer of precious metals, and palladium is the star player for gasoline engines. As the hot exhaust gases flow through this structure, they pass over the palladium catalyst. The palladium helps trigger chemical reactions that transform the pollutants. It helps convert poisonous carbon monoxide into harmless carbon dioxide. It helps turn unburnt hydrocarbons into carbon dioxide and water. It's a miniature chemical processing plant working silently under your car to clean the air we all breathe. As governments around the world became more concerned about air quality, they passed stricter emissions standards. From Europe to China to the United States, regulations demanded that cars produce fewer and fewer pollutants. To meet these tough new rules, car manufacturers had to make their catalytic converters more effective. And the best way to do that was to use more palladium. This direct link between environmental law and metal demand is what set the stage for palladium's dramatic rise. Every new law meant more palladium was needed for millions of new cars rolling off assembly lines. But palladium's work doesn't stop with cars. In electronics, it's used to create tiny components called multi-layer ceramic capacitors, which are essential for smartphones, laptops, and countless other devices. In medicine, its non-toxic and stable nature makes it suitable for dental crowns and surgical instruments. And as the world explores a hydrogen-powered future, palladium's ability to store and purify hydrogen makes it a critical component for fuel cells and hydrogen storage systems. It is a multi-talented element, quietly improving our technology and our environment. So, if palladium is so useful, why don't we just mine more of it? The problem is scarcity and geography. Palladium is one of the rarest elements in the Earth's crust. It is far rarer than gold or silver. To give you a sense of its rarity, all the palladium ever mined could likely fit inside a single large living room. It doesn't typically appear in large concentrated veins like gold. Instead, it's usually found in very low concentrations mixed in with other metals, primarily nickel ores, primarily copper ores. Extracting it is a complex and expensive process. The challenge of scarcity is compounded by a problem of geography. The world's supply of palladium is not spread out evenly. It comes from just a handful of places. Russia is the world's #1 producer, accounting for roughly 40% of the global supply. Most of this comes from the massive Norilsk nickel mines in Siberia. The second largest producer is South Africa. It extracts palladium as a byproduct of its vast platinum mining operations. Together, these two countries control a staggering portion of the world's palladium output. Smaller amounts come from Canada, smaller amounts come from the United States. This heavy concentration of supply in just two countries creates significant geopolitical risk. The global palladium market is vulnerable to any disruption in either Russia or South Africa. This could be a miners' strike, a new export tax, a political dispute, or international sanctions. Buyers in the automotive industry are constantly worried about the stability and reliability of this supply chain. Buyers in the electronics industry are constantly worried too. Even the perception of a future shortage can be enough to send prices soaring. Companies rush to secure their stock, creating a volatile and unpredictable market. This combination of natural rarity and geopolitical concentration makes palladium a fragile commodity. Unlike oil, where many countries can ramp up production, or gold, which is held in vaults all over the world, the palladium supply is tight and inflexible. Mines cannot be opened overnight, and the extraction process is tied to the mining of other metals. This delicate balance means that any small shift in supply or demand can have an outsized impact on the price. turning this useful industrial metal into a high-stakes bet for miners, for manufacturers, and for investors alike. For many years, palladium was the cheaper cousin of platinum. Then, starting around 2016, something incredible happened. Its price began a relentless climb. By early 2020, it had soared to record highs, surpassing the price of gold. This wasn't a bubble based on pure speculation, it was a classic economic story, demand outstripping supply. The forces driving this surge came from multiple directions at once. The first and most powerful force was tightening environmental regulations. Countries tightened vehicle emissions standards. China, Europe, automakers had to act. The new rules required a dramatic reduction in pollutants from gasoline engines. The most straightforward way to achieve this was increasing the amount of palladium in each catalytic converter. This sudden spike in demand from the world's largest auto markets put immense pressure on an already tight supply. The auto industry needed more palladium, and they needed it now. At the same time, the supply side couldn't keep up. Mining output from Russia, mining output from South Africa remained relatively flat. Opening new mines or expanding existing ones is a slow, capital-intensive process that can take years. There was no easy way to quickly increase the global supply to meet the surging demand. This created a significant physical deficit. The world was consuming more palladium than it was producing each year. To fill the gap, users had to dip into above-ground stockpiles, which began to dwindle rapidly. This price explosion had a very real and gritty consequence: a global surge in the theft of catalytic converters. With palladium prices at record highs, the small amount of precious metal inside each converter became a lucrative target for thieves. They could slide under a car and saw off the device in minutes, selling it to scrap metal dealers for hundreds of dollars. Police departments reported massive increases. London, Los Angeles, car owners were left with expensive repair bills and a very personal connection to the wild swings in the global commodities market. Palladium's reign as a king of metals was built on the internal combustion engine. But what happens when that engine starts to disappear? The world is now in the early stages of a massive technological shift. The transition to electric vehicles. Governments are promoting them. Automakers are investing billions. Consumers are starting to make the switch. This presents a monumental existential question for palladium. Because EVs run on batteries, they don't have an exhaust pipe. And with no exhaust, they have absolutely no need for a catalytic converter. This transition poses a direct and powerful threat to palladium demand. The automotive industry currently consumes over 80% of the world's annual palladium supply. If, or rather when, EVs begin to replace gasoline cars on a massive scale, that demand could plummet. Forecasters are already modeling this potential collapse. As the fleet of gasoline cars on the road peaks and then begins to shrink, the need for new catalytic converters will fall with it. This has turned the long-term outlook for palladium from one of scarcity and high prices to one of potential oversupply and decline. However, the story might not be so simple. The transition to an all-electric fleet will take decades. In the meantime, hybrid vehicles, which combine a gasoline engine with an electric motor, will likely serve as a bridge technology. These hybrids still require catalytic converters and will continue to support palladium demand for years to come. Furthermore, palladium has other important uses that could grow. The push for a hydrogen economy using hydrogen as a clean fuel source, could create new demand for palladium, fuel cells, hydrogen purification systems. So we are left with a great unanswered question hanging over this remarkable element. Will palladium be the metal that's predicted the electric revolution leaves behind its value collapsing as the gasoline engine fades into history? Or will new technologies like the burgeoning hydrogen economy give it a second life, creating a new chapter in its already fascinating story? Palladium's future is a mirror of our own technological path. Its fate is tied to the choices we make about how we power our world, making this once obscure metal a quiet but powerful indicator of the monumental changes to come.